Hey guys, got my Lather brush that I just acquired. This, I believe, is a size 4, I think. I need to get the stats. The handle is a couple of millimeters taller than what stats I show for the size 4, but I don't know the handle height stats for the size 5. So if you know the handle height for that, I'd love it if you'd maybe post in the comments. On Maggard's site, I saw for 1, 2, 3, and 4 the different handle heights, but on their description for size 5 it didn't show that. And I googled for it a little bit, didn't find anything. I guess I need to go to Lather's site. I should have thought about that. I assumed that Google would find Lather's site, and it didn't. But I've had this soaking for just a few minutes. I actually just lathered it up a little bit with some bar soap just to kind of clean it off. I just got it recently at the Carolina Wet Shavers Meetup, and it was on the PIF table. Can you believe that? A brush like that. Now, just now, the tips kind of felt a little, didn't really feel super soft, so I'm interested. Maybe somebody messed it up with some additives they put on it, or something to that effect, and so that's why such a nice brush was on the PIF table. We'll see. We'll see. Today's experience is going to be with this, a special edition Fatip Piccolo from Connaught Shaving, and they're a UK company that had this at a great deal. I just recently saw a post where somebody's been using this long enough to where the some of the plating has been kind of rubbing off a little bit. It's brass inside underneath the plating, and so even if that does happen to you, you can still use the razor with no problem at all. Matter of fact, you could strip the whole thing down and use it because it's brass, and that's one of the great reasons I like the Fatip razors. However, obviously, if you like the looks of something like this, then you don't want to have something that is going to where that coating is just going to wear away after a year. But if let's say it wears away after 2 years, that's 2 years of shaves. And I really like the performance of that razor. It might still be worth it. So you can think about that yourself. At the Wet Shavers Meetup, I got to meet Cadenzer, is the Reddit name of Michael Friedberg. I recommend his videos highly and often, especially to new shavers. He's got a 4-part wet shaving tutorial that he's more of a face latherer. And so if that's your niche, then I think he's a great one to start off with, where I'm more of a bowl latherer. And he's just been doing this for a while, and he's reviewed a lot of great soaps. And I really like his wet shaving tutorial. It kind of started me off, as well as probably a lot of other guys out there. Another one I recommend is Mantic 59. A lot of times online I'll recommend his. He's got a nice collection of beginning videos that address all kinds of issues. So I like him as well on YouTube. Also at the meetup, in addition to Michael Friedberg, I saw the guy who makes the Wolf Whiskers brushes. Great guy. I met the guy, I think his name's Chris Cullen, Catie's Bubbles, and he is the one that did the event soap. And the Catie's Bubbles base is really nice. It is vegan. And this one's called Eau de Thé, and it is obviously, if the word thé there is tea, and it's got some tea notes. It's got a little bit of bergamot for some citrus. It's got some aquatic and ozone type notes as well, and there's some other things in there. I did paste that into the description of the video down below. It's a very light colored soap, near white. And I haven't used it yet, and so this was celebrating kind of my first. I went in and bought the event soap because I like tea scents, and this one also has just a touch of ginger. I don't get any of that from just smelling the dry tub, though. Matter of fact, I get the aquatic and ozone notes a little stronger than the tea, I think, and I think there's a couple of florals in there, and I kind of get those more than the tea. Definitely. Definitely. That's what I just said. Isn't that funny? All right, so we'll use this. I'm confident the base is going to be terrific, like most of his are. I also met a Stephen Joyner and Courtney from Southern Witchcrafts, and Stephen is from the Dogwood Handcrafts, the brushes. And if you watched any of my videos in August, I talked about him all the time because he did that challenge with the Midnight Stag where I used that the whole month. And so it was great to meet him in real life for the first time. Some of these guys I've had conversations with online, but it's always great to shake somebody's hand and see them in real life. And Courtney's a delight. It's great to talk to her. Neat to see her and talk to her a little bit about the way they develop their scents and stuff. And here's an interesting thing. When they are working on putting together the scent on a soap, they a lot of times have no way of knowing how it's going to turn out at the end. And so they come up together with a scent, they put it in the soap, and they have to mix up the soap, let it cure for days, then smell it to see how it came out, if it's close to what they wanted, and then repeat the cycle if they feel like they need to make some tweaks. So that's really interesting. And you can see it's a lot of work to do what they do. It's not just as easy as, oh, this smells good, let's put it in a soap, and now we're ready to ship, you know. So there's a lot of work there. And I appreciate their creativity with their scent line. And a lot of their stuff is just smells so good, and they've got a good performing base too. The Dogwood Handcrafts, you know, I was able to see a lot of his handles, and man, there's nothing like going to one of these meetups and feeling some of these brushes and actually holding them in your hand. I tell you, most of his brushes look smaller online, and in people's shave of the day posts and stuff, they look smaller than they really are. And at least the ones I've seen, and they're terrific. So that was neat. I met a couple of people as well. I think Josh Shaves. I think he's got to have a YouTube channel. I believe that's the thing. Met him, and so met a few folks. It wasn't big. At the time, we were doing the door prize raffle, and I think there were just 30 guys there, 30 people there. So I was able to take my son, and he enjoyed looking around at the different stuff, and he had a good time. He had a good time. And then it was at a brewery, and they had put some games and had a TV going with some movies. And so while I was jawing with people after he'd kind of seen everything he wanted to see, he went out, he enjoyed himself out there watching the movie and all that. So we're going to knock down some growth. I don't know why I didn't shave prior to the meetup, which was on Saturday. Today's Monday. And then I was sick. I've been sick recently and have just gone to bed right away. And so we're doing this silver blue today, Gillette silver blue, and this one's had about 13 uses. Yeah. And so it did really well the last time I used this in my Wolfman, and we're going to do a little proof of concept. I've got 3 days of growth approximately, maybe 3.5. And it's really funny because I started wet shaving before I started going gray. And so I've never actually seen how much of my beard is gray. You know, obviously I know with my goatee, but I've never actually, so I wonder how much it would be if I let it grow out. So this is the most I've seen of it with that. With these Fatip razors, you do have to adjust the blade. And once you put everything on, sometimes you can get lucky by just kind of doing a simple drop like this. Just drop the blade in, drop the base plate in, and this is the Testina Gentile base plate, the closed comb base plate. And so now, take a look at each side, and if I need to adjust it, just loosen it up to where the blade can move a little bit. And that's probably golden. All right, and the proof of concept here that I'm going to do, and I've done this with other mild razors, and this one's really mild. It's a super smooth razor. I highly recommend it, even when you maybe have more growth. I'm confident this thing's going to knock this stuff down in 3 passes. A lot of people think that, oh, if I've got 3 days of growth, I have to go buy an open comb or a really aggressive razor. Well, I have probably lower than average hair follicle density, but I believe that most of your average guys could do just fine, even with 3 days growth, on a closed comb razor that's very mild. Maybe it doesn't knock off 90% of the hair that first pass, like on a 1 day growth, but I'm confident that second one is going to make up for it, and you'll be fine by the third, just like usual. And so this is just a little proof there that you don't need to go out and buy a bunch of hardware to try to address a bunch of concerns. Let's see if it works. Water on my face. Hard water as usual, and it's cool water. So my custom, man, look at how much water that holds. Shake out a lot of the water from the brush. Dry puck. And let's load for 30 seconds. And there's a 0 right there. Just light pressure. Kind of just enough to make the brush splay just a little bit. "20 seconds. Probably 20 is just fine. Let's go to 30. Oh man, the orange is coming up. The tea, a little bit of the tea and the ozone. Cool. Now I'll take my Roger Quintero bowl. He designed it. I helped a little bit. And it's 3D printed with a computer. If you want to look at the description, you can see a link to those files and stuff if you can print your own. The size 0 and size 1 of the Thader brushes are smaller than this handle. And the size 0 is quite small. Make a good travel brush. Pretty good for face latherers, in my opinion. But they're so small that my hands just got so messy while working up the lather. This one may be the same, but I feel like this is the best test. If this one bothers me enough to where I don't like it, then that means this kind of Thader brush is just not for me. One teaspoon of water in. I heard something interesting. One of the commenters on one of my videos, it talked about Thader and how I think they said that they want you to bowl lather with their brushes because they think face lathering might damage the tips. Isn't that interesting? Look that up if you're interested, if that you think might be a concern for you. I always bowl lather anyway, but to be honest, if I was a face latherer, I would just use it, you know. But that's just me. Just wanted to bring it to your attention in case you didn't know. Well, as usual, Catie's Bubbles looks terrific. Nice, creamy looking lather. Met a guy named John at the meetup as well. He likes straight razors. He was asking me some questions about lathering and stuff, and I think I asked him if he'd ever seen a guy use a syringe on videos, and he said yeah, and I said that's probably me. And so I think he's seen a couple of my videos. But if you're watching, hey John, good to meet you. He was sharpening a couple of his straights. I think it was Strike Gold Shave. The guy from Strike Gold Shave was there also. He was well, I don't want to insult him. I think he was Scottish, but he may have been Irish. I think Scottish, of that descent. Definitely had an accent, you know. And great guy to talk to. And he was doing. He had some sharpening stones and was there to answer questions and maybe do some demos and stuff. And John was working on his stones. He had a caudicle, which is it was a Belgian stone, and they just sharpen. It's a natural stone, I believe, and they just sharpen a little differently and more smoothly than kind of the synthetic stones that you might buy, like the Shaptons and the Nanawas and that kind of thing. So, but they're expensive, and sometimes you pay quite a bit for just a small stone. And so, since he didn't have one, he spent most of his time with two of his razors, sharpening them on the caudicle. All right, well, let's take a feel of this. Yep, feels good. Doesn't feel too thick. Doesn't feel too dry. Let's just give that a shot. And my hands didn't get too messy. Maybe if I work on and because this handle is just a few millimeters higher, maybe that makes all the difference, right? All right, a little water on my face. We'll see how this brush feels. Hey, there we go. That feels good. I love the way these brushes feel. When you have some stubble. Look how wet that is. I think it's resistant. Look at that. It just, you saw that lather that was on the brush and it's pretty much gone. I may have to go back to my puck. But there are some finest 2-band brushes that I have that are really dense, and I think that density, I've got a theory going. I think that density makes it easier for the brush to catch on your stubble. Oh yeah, this soap is almost all used up. Man, I thought 30 seconds was going to be overkill. Yeah, we're going to have to go back to the puck. Now it is, you know, it's already been cured and all that kind of stuff, so it might be normal for new soaps to kind of behave this way. But also it could be that this brush may need more load time, and that's why anytime I put a load time on my on the stats in my description for the video, I try to include what kind of brush I use, because as you can see, brushes are different, and one, I love this. This feels great. It's not catching on my stubble like a 2-band would. It feels great. Man, that's nice. Excellent. Excellent. Oh, I'm so happy with that brush. Yeah, so I think I'm glad I soaked it for long, because it really did fit as I was kind of working it in my palm with the soap, with the bar soap that I was kind of training up here. It didn't feel all that great. So I was very concerned, but maybe the long soak helped it to soften up. I'm happy about that. Big happy. Big happy. All right, so 3 days of growth with a 13 use blade and a mild razor. I'm confident it's going to be just fine. No tugging at all. Comfortable. Okay, a tiny minuscule bit of tugging. I'm not gonna I can't say there's none at all, but if that level of tugging bothers you, you probably shouldn't be shaving. You should probably just go get electric or something. I'm sure a fresh blade probably wouldn't have that much tugging, but it might actually, because this is a longer beard growth. But as you can see, I don't know if you can see or not, but it's gone. I mean, it's not like the second pass is going to really have to cover and try to cut more hair than usual, because it is just being knocked down without a problem. This mild razor. So if you can't afford multiple razors, in my opinion, don't feel bad about getting yourself something like this that you find comfortable. If you are a person who shaves every day, and don't feel bad if if you miss a bunch of days. I think the mild razor is going to be able to take care of you. Yeah, face feels great. All right, we did a little kind of half partial rinse. Throw on the second layer, second pass. Could some people call this floppy? Maybe, but to me it's not. The hairs are staying on my face. They're not splitting out to the side and causing me to miss out on the tips touching my face. I feel like I've got good coverage with the tips. I don't feel like I'm just kind of rubbing the root ball, on my face like some silver tips. I really like this guy. I smell the tea, the aquatics, especially the ozone. It's a good scent. Definitely a warm weather scent to kind of refresh you. A little bit of floral, probably just to add maturity and keep it from smelling just like your typical tea scent or a typical aquatic. And it's to me, it's definitely not feminine at all. It's just a supporting element that brings kind of maturity and sophistication to it. All right, second pass, cross grain now. Slick and comfy. Excellent glide with this soap. Really slick feel on my face. This is one of the first areas that I did, and there was a little bit of soap left over, still up in that area, and I did the rest of my face. Came back to it still excellently slick. Nice secondary slickness on this soap, so that you're not going to have any problem coming back to an area and touching it up, probably during even the same pass. Sometimes you may not even need to re-lather. Very nice. And the scent strength is in a wonderful place for me, at least, kind of medium strength. It's not overpowering at all. I'm enjoying it. It's around me, but it's not light. Just I'd say medium, 5, 6 out of 10 probably. And I really enjoy that. It's perfect for me. All right, so third pass, and I don't have too much lather in here, but I'll bet it's enough to do the job, because you don't need tons. You really don't. Even a semi-translucent coating can give you plenty of slickness to protect your skin and give that razor good glide. And that's all you need. Those are the two aspects of a lather. That's what you need to have. Scent is nice. Creaminess is nice, but those are just extras. As you can see, this is a very thin, wet coating. If you're a straight razor shaver, this may be what you need to go for every time in terms of consistency, because I've heard, seen a lot of talk about from straight razor guys who definitely advocate going for the wetter lathers than DE shavers do. Well, I'm not quite over being sick yet. I can feel my stomach kind of acting up right now. But I had a great time. Glad I took my son. Now, he would have been bored a little bit if there wasn't the movies and games and stuff that the brewery had out. Especially when you, like at the end of the shave, I was talking with some guys. We were on our way out, and it was a pleasure to talk to them. But that's, you know, sometimes you want to stand there and, you know, talk for about 15 minutes. Well, that's not really something the kids usually enjoy. But he was fine out there. They even had this cool adult type Tinker Toy set, and he was building stuff. Shave feels great. So this is a blade that many people would consider, with 14 uses on it now, something to throw away. And that's fine if they want to do that. But this is just proof that I didn't even need to do a third pass. And so I definitely proved that a mild razor, especially a good mild razor like this one, can knock down 3 days of growth without a problem. So looks great, feels great. Happy with this one. My wife is feeling ill today, and so we're going to hang around a lot together. So I'm going to put on a balm that she especially likes, that I think is not going to clash with the with this soap. This is Stirling Executive Man. It's their Creed Aventus inspired version, and super popular, and I like it too. All right, well, so-called mild razor took care of that beard with no problem at all. Super happy, really happy with the brush. Sure, there are some people that might call it a little on the floppy side. I mean, some people do like really, really firm, scratchy brushes. That's not me. I like really soft tips, and I like a medium backbone to a little bit less than that. And so one nice thing about being a bowl lather is when it comes time to wash your brush, you're not stuck squeezing it or anything like that with your hand. I think that takes a long time to make happen, to actually clean your brush really well. What I do is I use my bowl, and I will, let me fill it up part way here. I've shown this before, but it's been a while. I'll take my bowl and I'll tilt it halfway because it's a big bowl, and I will rinse my brush like that, and as you can see, some of the water just splashes right out. Well, what I do is I put the bowl down there under the faucet. So as some water splashes out, water is constantly being added back in by the faucet. And so then we're getting nice clean water, clean rinse water for the brush. So that's the way I do it, and it's pretty quick. All right. How much water do we use? Hey, not very much. I don't think I refilled the syringe, so we're looking at 1.5 teaspoons of water added. And it was a lightly wet brush that we started with, so that'll give you an approximation. It may not be exactly what you need, especially if you have a different brush, different hardness of water, that sort of thing. And I've even had times where I used the same brush, the same soap, and the water quantity was still a little different. There's some other variables in there at play sometimes. Now the tips on this guy might be slightly jelly. I just finished dropping it on the towel, and you can still see a little bit of clumping and stuff. And that might also be why early on in my working it on my hand, I could felt a little rough. Well, it's because the tips hadn't had a chance to soften and enjoy the water, absorb that water up so they could become soft enough to shave with. And maybe that's why Thader had that notice on their site to, if you face lather, you might, if you just lather it up right quick on the soap and then go immediately to your face, you may not be giving those tips time enough to soften, maybe more prone to breakage. It could be why they're doing that. But I definitely let mine soak, and I'm definitely going to do that in the future. Make sure that this brush has plenty of time to soak, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the shave. And it looks great, feels terrific. Right now it feels better than it did when I first got it wet and started getting the water together. And this is the bulb shape of brush. The fan shape is more like this. This is probably a hybrid fan really, but I guess it's a fan. So you can see the difference in case you've never seen that before. But feels great. And so this, these tips, they may be a little jelly. We'll just have to watch it and see. It felt good to me, so I hope they don't change too much. If they get too spongy and jelly, you start to lose the feel of the tips because it's all just like a sloppy mess. But that's an uncommon opinion. Most guys like those jelly tips. Some guys seek them out for sure. All right, really happy with the shave. I put my balm on already. Doesn't seem to be conflicting at all with this soap. Really enjoying that too. I think we're good. So I'm gonna go rest, do a little bit of work, and try to help my wife feel better too. But if you're watching and you were at the Carolina Meetup, it sure was great to be there with everybody and enjoy that experience, and to meet those of you that I did. Really appreciate that. And if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to post in the comments, and I'll help you as best I can. Right now, I've got a few hundred subscribers, and that's really cool. And I usually get several comments per video, and I think that's a great place because that's an amount that's manageable for me to try to help people out. If my channel grows too much and I end up with a lot of subscribers, unfortunately I may not be able to get to all the questions and comments and stuff. But right now I'm in a great place and I can. Really happy about that. All right, guys. So you take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I hope there was something here for you. Bye.